Okay, communication. Did you know that only 20% of how we communicate is in the words that we use? The rest is non-verbal, called non-verbal. So that's things like eye movements, tone, pace, and you would have heard of this, body language. And we are rarely taught it. And if your organization has been good enough to send you on a course, I recommend you dust off your notes. If not, I do teach it, but download Udemy, it's an app, and buy an NLP course because you'll never regret it. But let me give an example of this scrambled screen of junk and how people can talk too quickly and fall over their words and get tied up and actually not communicate what they're trying to say. Because the brain can only handle between 3 to 5 chunks of information at once. So if there are any fast talkers on the call out there, you're possibly not getting heard. You also need to cut out the conjunctions, such as the word and but or so, and to be brave enough to stop, to pause, use silence. Let's make some sense of this conversation on the screen. The numbers support the plan. The company is on track to meet its budgets. By next June, the headcount reductions will have clicked in. When we see that, the profit should be back to 2018 levels. If we recommend that the bank extends the facilities, takes a fee for the extension and a slight increase in the interest rate to compensate the risk in the short term, would you agree that this is a nice compromise for the client and the lender? If so, I'll put a recommendation to the board for you to sign off. Does that make sense? Communication is 80% non-verbal. This slide might look slightly more abstract, but people represent the world through their senses, and they use language and even their eyes in very different ways. My advice to you is to learn the style of the boss and colleagues and learn how to adjust to their view of the world. So if you hear the boss saying, "I hear what you say, it sounds good to me," or "yes, that rings true," they are using an auditory style of communication. And if you're a visual person, it would do you good to shift your style and use his or her language. If it sounds spooky, just give it a go. All this is taught, but sadly not at school. So it's a post-job learning experience that I'd really highly recommend to you. Next is mirroring. If you observe two people getting on, then it's likely that there'll be mirroring, like people in this slide. Mirroring starts with babies who begin to mirror their mums and dads. That creates a sense of empathy and rapport with the individual who's being mirrored. People feel more connected. They'll start to believe that they share similar attitudes and ideas as well. Likewise, when you're in a conversation, simply adopt the pose of the other person and you'll soon feel rapport building between you. Obviously, it needs practice, but don't just fake it. It will help you as much as the other person. And if you really want to take it to the next level with the boss, match your breathing, because that's what actually happens with people as they start to fall in love. So you can have a lot of fun with that one. We're all taught that if we speak clearly, others will understand. Not so. Far from it. Remember the difference in quality of lecturers at school or uni. Remember the one that scribbled on the board for an hour and then left the room? Contrast the one that really excited your imagination. Or the date who sent you to sleep, right? So it's not what you say, but it's how you communicate that you're judged by. And the judge of the quality of your communication is not you. It's the other person. Yes, the other person. So if you're struggling in this area, you need to think about what you can adapt to make it better. And what we must not do is subconsciously blame the other person for getting it wrong, because they're not, they're right. There are 7 billion people on this planet. Every single one has a different map of the world. To you, to me. How amazing. It's the cause of all conflict, right? So when we speak with a new joiner, or we go out of our way to help them, or when we're working cross-culturally, we expect misunderstandings and make allowances. But when we're with colleagues for months and months, all that understanding can easily go out of the window, because we expect them to understand us. But the truth is that that person at the next desk to you now, or in the Zoom window next to you right now, has a different view of reality. Brexit, COVID, BLM, women in business, poverty, mental health, all create different realities to different people, even within families. Some filter information through their past. Some see their view of the world through their future. Some filter away from unpleasantness. Others filter towards reward. Some filter through big pictures. Some filter their world through a lot of detail. If you can understand this and adjust to their style, you're well on the way to avoiding misunderstandings, managing conflict, managing internal stress, influencing others, and above all, being respected and popular at work. So our belief about the future comes from our experiences behind us, from our past. So a kid growing up with criticism every day is likely to be more risk averse later in life, or prone to want to avoid failure and criticism. A higher risk taker is likely to have come quite possibly from a different background, one with perhaps more encouragement, or having been led by example. Some people have sunny backgrounds, others darker. But what's important to becoming successful in interpersonal relationships is that you understand this now, because when beliefs clash, it's a breeding ground for unpleasantness. And unpleasantness in the workplace is toxic. I'm sorry I'm rushing this. There is so much in it, but I hope it's all going in. All these slides are going to be made available. We judge people on their behaviors. This is one of the single biggest problems in the world today. We judge ourselves on our intentions. Does that make sense? We judge others on their behaviors, but we judge ourselves on our intentions. If you've ever been cut up, as you will have been, if you drive on the road by the road users, but you've made mistakes, right, too. Spot the difference. One creates anger or a reason for anger. The other creates forgiveness or an emotion of self-forgiveness. Understand this simple tip and you have the keys to diffusing practically every single conflict at work. The reason? 90% of us, most of the time, are all pulling with the same intention in the same direction. So what is resistance? A good friend put this, sorry, somebody's just coming in. Let me just let them in. Thank you. So what is resistance? Well, a good friend put this slide up almost 18 years ago. It was 2003 and it's stuck with me. I've used it ever since. If somebody is resisting you, it's because they either don't like it or they don't understand it. Occasionally they might not like you, but that's very rare, particularly if you apply slides 1 to 5, right? There are no other reasons. There are no other reasons. Subsets, yes, but if it's something else, it's not resistance. You're probably in a negotiation, which is very different. So sometimes people need something explained to them 3 or 4 times before they truly understand, for all the reasons that I've spoken about, right? Different maps of the world and beliefs. So you have to practice this and practice the patience to invest time explaining from different angles, sometimes when it's very frustrating, and we all struggle with it, who and why and when, and then suddenly the other party can fall into your view of the world. I want you to think of a small problem right now, not something mega. You may have, not a big one. You may have had a tiff with a partner, or maybe you're worried about a performance review, or you've got something spinning around inside your head, any little worry. Now, I want you to think about the person that you thought about in the first slide, that trusted advisor, that great friend, that amazingly respected public individual, whoever you chose, that superhero in your life. Now take the problem into an imaginary room. Imagine that right now. That's good. And maybe even close your eyes if it helps. And turn to that person and ask them what they would do. Good. So come back to me. That's a basic example of reframing. And we can reframe any problem anytime just by changing a word or a thought. So here's an example. The managing director never answers my emails. Maybe he just doesn't rate me. Reframe it. How many emails a day does the managing director have to answer? And you will get a completely different resolution. Try it. One second. So we come to the end, but for me, this is the life changer. If you can understand this slide in 3 minutes, you have the key to life to avoid worry and even depression. If you still want to understand it after 3 minutes, you either need to buy a course or give me a call. I can put you in touch with a brilliant course on this. We all know that person who can just shrug something off that is killing us, draining our energy, hounding us every minute of every day. If you're the guy that or girl that can shrug this off, you probably don't need this, right? For everybody else, including me, massive negative belief or attributional style at times. This is how to change your life now in 2 minutes. The one who can shrug it off can do that because the emotion is held outside of their conscious brain, outside of their body even, in neuro-linguistic programming terms. Meanwhile, we've managed to very well to internalize it, and it now lives in our body. It's called the depressive negative attributional thinking style. But if I'd written all that up, it wouldn't have made the slide work. So this is where we take something bad and process it as something that is a part of us. We accept it as stable in our lives. So if we look at this slide for the moment, on the right hand side, negative attributional style, when bad things happen, we take it in, we expect it. It's a stable part. Bottom left, a positive attributional thinking style, when bad things happen, we externalize it. We see it as a one-off. Well, it won't happen again. I mean, it's just unlucky. And it becomes a random event. And for a positive attributional thinker, when good things happen, they take it in. They expect it. Well, good things all generally happen to me. And it's part of my life. So bottom right, a positive attributional thinker, when good things, negative attributional thinker, when good things happen, it's a one-off. I got lucky. It's random. It's a random event. It probably won't happen again. We all filter some information negatively. We all filter some information positively at times. Some are more prominent on one style than others. People may tell us to think positive, but the reason that rarely works is because we don't know how. The trick is practicing the positive thinking style. So when something bad happens to challenge, your challenge is to remember you have a choice. You can push it outside your body. It doesn't have to live outside. You can label it as random, as chance, as unstable. Hey, that's enough. I've done my 15 minutes. Thanks for listening.